5 hours to go. Hello everyone, hi! A very good morning to all of you. I hope you are in the pink of health since we are in the midst of hectic week. So today I'm Shafeea, would like to talk about intermittent fasting or IF and what's the impact of IF. Before we go on deeply and if we should do it, let's talk about what IF actually is. Human fasting is not a new concept by any means. Humans have been doing it for millennia. IF is just a rebranding of something that we have already been doing. Our body enter fasting session every time we're asleep. Some people do IF and not even know it. Sometimes there's plenty of time where we had a stressful rotation in university or difficult and heavy house chores at home where we didn't have time to eat our breakfast. Where that's a form of intermittent fasting and our body are totally capable of handling this. Everyone thinks that IF will let our body to starve a whole day, but it is actually not. When someone's fasting, their body is actually using stored nutrients and stored energy forms in order to make their body continue to function. When a person starving, they've run out of those energy sources and breaking down vital tissues like organs to get that same energy. However, everything that happens in this world will not go just as we wish to. Just like intermittent fasting, they have some negative impact on the health of a person who practice it. The first impact is the impact in blood pressure. Hypertension is a common disorder of modern world. In Malaysia, this problem affects 32.7% of adults aged 18 and above. It is a risk factor for cardiovascular disease, stroke, and chronic kidney disease. It is defined as the occurrence of systolic blood pressure in the amount of 140 mmHg and more, or diastolic blood pressure (DBP) of 19 mmHg or more. Intermittent fasting produced a significant decrease in blood pressure values but did not cause a significant change in the original measured centered blood pressure. We also identify increased blood pressure variability during intermittent fasting, particularly in patients who woke up before sunrise. Additionally, intermittent fasting can also give impact on sugar level. The safety of intermittent fasting diet for people with diabetes, which accounts for 5% to 10% of all diabetes cases, is not well known, and fasting with diabetes can cause hyperglycemia and hypoglycemia. If a person has diabetes and is interested to try IF for weight loss or other reasons, the individual should talk to their healthcare provider first because of the need to adjust insulin levels and may need to take extra precautions, and if not, avoid IF rigidly. Primarily, there's no enough guidance of what we should eat. We don't know how many calories, we don't know what food to eat on days and time that we are actually eating. Second, we don't know which form of intermittent fasting is the best for us to choose. Third, there are some side effects when we are fasting that other people do experience, such as headache, mental fog, and heartburn. These things do exist. It's not totally benign. 4. We don't know the consequences of following an intermittent fasting diet for a long term. Most of these studies are done in a short term of period. If we are eating a very unhealthy diet and then make a change, we are definitely gonna see a benefit. But now, these benefits still hold up to 10 years down the line. We don't know that yet when it comes to intermittent fasting. And 5, it's not easy for everybody to fight off those cravings on fasting days. Following the topic that I've chosen, which is intermittent fasting, I found some factual data. In 2015, cardiologists found that clinical research studies of fasting with robust designs and high level of clinical evidence were few and far between. With that review, they wanted to determine where the intermittent fasting science was in terms of clinically good or excellent research that had been performed up to that point. When they say good research, they mean studies that had been designed and conducted in a rigorous enough manner that their result could be used as a basis for changing or guiding a health practice. In particular, their aim was to find studies that were randomized clinical trials of fasting that used a particular kind of control group or studies in which the research endpoint was a clinical outcome. They found little that met the high standard of clinical trial research that could be used in developing guidelines around the use of intermittent fasting for health improvement. Alright, my final take on intermittent fasting. I think it's a really great concept with some really promising medical research behind it. I think that if you can skip a meal, you can skip breakfast here and there, you're gonna see some benefit. Does that mean you should go on this very rigid diet where you're doing the 5 and 2 or 16 and 8? I don't think that we should quite make this a rigorous part of our everyday life because we don't know the long-term consequences of it. But in a society that is prone to overeating, a fasting day won't hurt and probably help. To conclude, intermittent fasting do bring some health impact but also give advantages if one's apply it in a professional way. Intermittent fasting is not wrong to practice if one has a high level of knowledge about intermittent fasting themselves so that it does not burden one's life. That's all from me. Thank you for lending me your ears. Bye!